Now, our next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, is the Vice President of United Poultry Concerns. After receiving her master's degree in computer science, she found her passion in advocating for animals, which is, I'm sure, the case with many of you here today as well, maybe minus the computer science part. She is fluent in both Chinese and English, and she has translated live poultry market literature to outreach, to the Chinese community in New York City and San Francisco. A strong believer in changing people's minds and attitude towards animals through public education. She leaflets and tables for United Poultry Concerns in public forums, festivals, and conferences. Over the past 20 years, Liqin has become a valuable contributor to the mission for United Poultry Concern, promoting the compassionate and respectful treatment of domestic fowl. So how about a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for Liquin Cao.
I see you raise.
Oh, sorry. I should just...
We have a lot of short people here.
That's okay, we'll have...
Okay, first of all, where's Pamela? Where's Pamela? She's 20. Just want to really, a round of applause for Pamela for organizing this event. And give yourself a round of applause for coming out and support this event. It is so important, right, for us to come out, being proud of being vegan, caring about the animals and the environment. So, as Eric mentioned, I've been volunteering and working for United Poultry Concerns for many years. UPC is a non-profit vegan organization founded in 1990 by Dr. Karen Davis. And we promote the compassionate and respectful treatment of chickens, ducks, turkeys, and other domestic fowl. And the story of UPC all started with a little chicken named Viva. Now, Viva was what the industry called a boiler chicken race for me. Karen found her in the corner of a chicken shed that has just been cleared of a flock. And she took her home, made a little bed for her next to her kitchen table. And Viva was crippled because of her leg and feet deformities, but yet she loved to move around. So in order to balance herself, she would spread her wings just so the feather ends touched the ground. And she also loved to talk to Karen with her very fragile little peep-peep voice. Now, as Viva got bigger, her leg conditions got worse, and Karen would often find greenish-blue bruises on certain parts of her legs and her feet. So Karen took her to see a veterinarian, and the veterinarian told Karen that Viva suffers from splay foot, which is it's an inborn weakness of the joint that's very typical of chickens raised for the modern food industry. And because of her struggles with her condition, she has wounds all over her body, inside as well as outside, and unfortunately she had to be euthanized. Now, the physical condition suffered by Viva is common to the birds raised for the meat industry. Because of genetic manipulation for large breast and thigh muscle tissues, these birds grow so big, so fast, that their bone structure often cannot support their body weight. And at just 6.5 weeks old, these babies are sent to slaughter. So for Viva and birds like her, we seek to educate the public about the ways these birds are treated and used, and we do so through our publications like our Poultry Press magazine and various other literatures that you could find at our table. We also have outreach programs like bus ads and tabling, leafleting events. In addition, we also run a sanctuary for rescue birds. Now, if you ever come to visit our sanctuary, which is on the eastern shore of Virginia, Machipongo, you will find chickens flying and perching on tree branches. And you will see Ivan the rooster watching over his lady friends. You will see different species forming friendships. So during one of my visits to our sanctuary, I was in the yard visiting the birds, and I saw a turkey kind of waddle toward me. So as I lowered myself to pet the turkey, out of nowhere, a dog came running and injected himself between me and the turkey and he just started cracking very loudly. And every time I tried to pet the turkey, he would do exactly the same. So he was very protective of his turkey friend. And there are frenemies and dramas, of course, in our sanctuary, but there are also BFFs like Gabby and Felix. Now, Felix fell off the transport truck that was taking him to a slaughterhouse on the Eastern Shore of Maryland last July. And there was a passerby gathered him up, took him to our veterinarian. He has a smashed wing that had to be amputated. But after the surgery, he settled in our sanctuary kitchen very nicely, and Karen named him Felix, meaning happy. And about a month later, we also adopted a little baby chick named Gabby. Now, both Gabby and Felix are about the same age. They were both under 2 months old, but Felix, being raised for the meat industry, was many times bigger than Gabby. But despite of their size differences, they became inseparable friends. They often sit together in the kitchen with a little Gabby nestled on the Felix back. And you can see that cute picture at our poultry magazine. So one day, Karen was working in her office and she heard a sudden commotion and Gabby running into her office, peeping frantically. Now, Gabby has never done this before, not once that Karen has ever seen Gabby leaving Felix's sight. So Karen jumped off her chair, followed Gabby into the kitchen, and that's where she found Felix laying on the floor dead. And so Gabby has just witnessed her best friend dying of a heart attack, a massive heart attack, and she knew something really bad was happening, and she knew exactly where to find Karen for help, even though she's never been into Karen's office before. So unfortunately, birds like Felix are very frail and weak despite of the appearance of size and strength. Many of them don't live very long, even in sanctuaries. Now today, Gabby is fully grown, living happily in our sanctuary, but I'm sure she misses her best friend Felix very much. Our sanctuary birds came from all sorts of exploitations, from school hatching projects like Gabby, to university animal science research experiments, from cockfighting to religious sacrifices, to abandoned backyard chickens to abandoned battery caged hens. In 2012, egg farmer in California left 50,000 caged hens to starve to death. Many of them died in their cages or euthanized by the state authorities. Animal Place Sanctuary in California, they were able to save 4,000 of these birds and find good home for all of them. And about 50 of them came to our sanctuary, and when they finally arrived, it was such a joy to see them flying out of their carrying crate into the fresh air, into a place where they could finally call home. Now these were the lucky ones. 95% of the egg-laying hens in the United States are cramped in long rows of stacked battery cages that are so small that they cannot spread their wings. In these gloomy, filthy places, they typically hold 50,000 to 125,000 birds. In this filthy place, many birds suffer from various diseases, yet the veterinary care is non-existent as individual birds are considered cheap and expendable. So birds who are critically ill are just thrown onto the dead piles. The average lifespan of a chicken is about 8 to 12 years, but for these hens, when their egg production goes down to 50%, which is only about 15 months old, they are no longer commercially profitable for the egg industry. At this point, an economic decision is made to send these birds to slaughterhouses or live poultry markets. And in recent years, I'm sure all of you have heard these free-range and cage-free egg farms, and they falsely evoke an idyllic image of a happy hens living outdoors, roaming in green pastures with fresh air and sunshine. Well, in 2011, UPC arranged to visit one such egg farm called Black Eagle Farm in Virginia. So the farm marketed itself as a traditional family farm with a long history of treating the animals and the environment with respect. What we saw was a warehouse-like compound that is divided into 4 quadrants, with each quadrant holding 9,000 to 12,000 birds perched on metal shelves. The place is completely devoid of any natural stimulation for these birds. The floor was covered with bird droppings mixed with sawdust and wood chips. So as we entered the facility, we noticed that all the hens are still debeaked, and the ones on the ground, they were very curious about us, so they all flocked to us, and they stuck out their little tongue out of their stump where their beaks used to be, and they were licking the suits that were biosuits we were wearing. They were so very sweet. Now, as we walked to the outer perimeter of this quadrant, and that's when we saw all the hens crowded around these little tiny doors, but the doors were all locked and the hens were screaming to be let out. This is considered free range. So that day, we told the birds that we would never forget. We heard their cries and we would never forget them. We will take their voices everywhere we go and advocate on their behalf and promote veganism with passion, conviction, and pride. Thank you very much, and please come visit our table.
Thank you, Liqin.